My friend Nora had been wanting to visit Clement Bray for 3 months, ever since her grandmother mentioned him in passing the way old mountain women mention things they consider obvious, like you're supposed to already know. You got questions about what lives in these hills, her grandmother had said. You go sit with Clement. That was the whole sentence. No address, no phone number, no explanation of what exactly Clement was or did or knew, just that. We found him through asking around, which in Doddridge County means driving slow down the right roads and stopping when someone looks like they might talk to you. Third person we asked, a man at a gas station outside Smithburg, said, "Old Clement. Yeah, he's up Piney Fork Road, last house, before the gravel gives out. Porch has got so many wind chimes on it, you can hear him from the highway when the weather's right. He said it the way you'd give directions to a hardware store. Completely normal." We drove up on a Thursday evening in late October. Sky the color of a bruise. Smell of rain coming, leaves already stripped off most of the trees. Nora had her recorder going. She does oral history work, studies mountain folklore. That's the whole reason for any of this. Me? I was just along because she doesn't like driving these roads after dark alone, which turned out to be a smarter instinct than either of us knew. Clement Bray was exactly where the man said he'd be, sitting on that porch with what had to be 40 wind chimes going in the cold air, rocking slowly in a chair that looked older than the state itself. A tin cup of something in his hand. Tall man, very thin, skin that had seen about 80-some years of weather. Eyes so dark and clear they looked backlit. He watched us get out of the car. Didn't wave, didn't call out, just watched, the way a hawk watches something it hasn't decided about yet. Nora said, "Mr. Bray? My grandmother is Ruth Holland. She said we ought to come talk to you." He nodded once, slow, deliberate, and said, "Figured someone from Ruth's line would come one of these days." "Sit down." We sat, and after a little while he started talking.
He didn't start with a story right away. He started with a question the way serious people do. "You believe in fate?" he said. "Either of you?" Nora said she wasn't sure. I said I'd never thought about it much. "Most people haven't," Clement said. "They think fate means you sit on your hands and wait for what's coming. That ain't it. Fate's more like, you ever watch a river? Water's gonna get to the bottom of the mountain. That's settled. But whether it takes this channel or that one, whether it carves this hollow or floods that field, that moves. That shifts, the destination's fixed, the path ain't." I told him that still sounded like it didn't leave much room for a person to matter. "Wrong end of it," he said. "A person matters more, not less. See, there's things in this world that want to push the river in a bad direction. Flood the wrong field, starve the wrong people, dry up what should stay wet. My job, my whole life's work, has been to see those things coming and push back where I can. Not change the river's endpoint. Just keep it honest on the way there." Nora leaned forward. She does that when something's real. "What kind of things?" she said. Clement looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked out at the dark tree line past the road. "Let me tell you about Pinebox Hollow," he said. "That'll answer it better than I can straight." This was maybe 30 years back, Clement said. He'd been walking. He did a lot of walking in those years, covering the back parts of this county and the counties touching it, learning the land the way you can only learn it on foot. He'd been walking 3-4 days out of town, sleeping rough, covering ground he hadn't covered before. Pinebox Hollow is what everybody calls the depression between Piney Fork Ridge and the next one east. Used to be a settlement there. Company housing from when the Gaston coal operation was running back around 1900 to 1930 or so. Place cleared out when the mine played out. Then a flood took the last of the buildings in 1952. What's left is an old graveyard, Pinebox Cemetery, though nobody put that name on a sign. The graves are mostly unmarked, or the markers have gone to moss and ground. A lot of miners, a lot of their families. Clement came into it on a hot September afternoon, tired, looking for shade. The ridge trees on both sides kept the hollow cool even at midday. He found a good spot under an old beech tree by the creek, sat down and almost immediately felt the hair on his arm stand up. "Not fear exactly," he said, "more like recognition, like walking into a room where someone's been burning something, and even though the fire's out, the air knows. That cemetery had it strong. He rested there anyway, he was too tired to do otherwise. And that was when he saw her. A woman in a dark dress crouched at the creek's edge, pulling something from the water with both hands. Methodical, unhurried, like she'd been doing it all her life and intended to keep doing it. Clement thought at first she was from a nearby farm, but the nearest working farm was 3 miles off the ridge, and her dress was wrong, old-fashioned wrong, the kind of cut you'd see in a photograph from 1920, not on a living woman in the late 20th century. He watched her. She didn't look up. Eventually she rose, turned, and walked directly toward him, holding a wicker basket in both hands. She had a broad, weathered face, calm eyes, the kind of settled, unflinching look you see on people who've been through enough that surprise no longer registers. "You're far from wherever you're from," she said. "Not a question," Clement said. "Yes, ma'am. Just passing through." "Nobody just passes through here," she said. "They come here because they're meant to, or they come here because something's calling them that they can't hear clearly." "Which one are you?" He said he didn't know. She looked at him a moment longer. Then she looked down at her basket. "I'm collecting the old grief," she said. "This creek runs over those graves when it rains hard, picks up what's stored in the ground, carries it downstream into where people live, into their water, their air, their blood." She looked up. "I take it out before it gets that far." Clement looked at the basket. It was full of smooth, round creek stones. "Stones," he said. "Stones," she agreed. And then she smiled at him, small, private, and walked off between the graves toward the south end of the hollow. He called after her. She didn't answer, but just before she went around a stand of old cedar, she turned her head not fully toward him and said something that carried back on the air. "Don't sleep here tonight. What's been laid to rest here is getting restless. Come back when you're ready to help with that." Then she was gone. Clement waited a day. He always waited a day when he could, to think, to prepare, to let whatever place he was going have time to know he was coming. He'd learned that much over the years. You couldn't sneak up on something like Pinebox Hollow. Wasn't worth trying. He went back at dusk, brought what he always brought: a pouch of specific dried roots, an iron knife that had belonged to a woman he'd apprenticed under in his 30s, a small jar of creek water from a running stream that had never been dammed. Nothing dramatic, nothing ceremonial looking. The real work he'd learned didn't look like anything. Pinebox Hollow at dusk was different from the afternoon. The air was thicker. The sounds were wrong. Too many insects. The creek noise pitched too high, and underneath it all a low, subsonic hum that you couldn't hear with your ears exactly, but felt in your fillings in your jaw. He'd been in there about 20 minutes when he found the first one. It was crouched behind a leaning marker stone, one of the old coal-stained ones that still had half a name carved in it. It looked at first like a man sitting with his knees drawn up. Then it turned toward him, and the proportions were wrong. Too long in the torso. The head sitting too low on the shoulders, the hands on the ground, not quite hands. Not what the man had been. What was left of him after 80 years of unresolved grief had done its slow corruption. Clement stood still. "I know you didn't choose this," he said quietly, to the thing behind the marker stone. "I know what you were. I know what happened to you." It made a sound, not language, but something that had once been in the direction of language a long time ago. Then another one stepped out from behind a tree, and another from the creek bank, and 2 more at the south edge of the cemetery, 5. All of them between Clement and the way he'd come in. The humming in the ground got louder. Clement reached into his pouch, pulled out the roots, and started working. Hands moving, voice low. Not loud, not dramatic. Just steady and present and deliberate, the way his teacher had taught him. "You are not commanding, you are witnessing. You are making an acknowledgement they have not received. That is the whole thing. That is everything." The nearest one moved toward him, fast. He was losing ground, and he knew it. The thing closest to him had gotten hold of his left arm, and the cold of its grip was going up into his shoulder, through his chest. Not frostbite cold, not temperature cold, something more like the cold of being unseen, of being forgotten, of being treated as though you had never mattered. He understood what it was doing, and understanding it didn't help. The others were closing, and then the fire happened. It came from the south end of the hollow, where the hollow opened out toward the creek bend. A sudden hard flare of light. Not from a torch, not from any single source. Just light old orange and bone white, flooding up from the ground itself, and in the middle of it, standing with her arms out, the woman in the dark dress. Nella. She was not the quiet, methodical creek woman he'd met in the afternoon. This was something else. Her hair was loose and moving in air that wasn't blowing. Her face was the face of someone doing something they had done a very long time, and knew exactly how it ended. Her voice when she spoke was in no language Clement recognized, but it was not chaotic, not frenzied. It was structured, rhythmic, a long series of precise statements addressed directly to the things in the cemetery. The grip on Clement's arm released. All 5 of them turned toward her. What happened over the next several minutes, Clement said on the porch. He has gone back to in his memory 1,000 times and has never been able to put it cleanly into sequence. It was not linear. It was not a fight exactly, though the word fight is the closest one he has. It was more like a negotiation conducted at a speed and in a register that wasn't built for human witness. The things from the graves moved toward Nella. She received them, not fled, not blocked, received. And as each one reached her, it seemed to change, lose the wrong proportions, become briefly recognizable as something that had once been a man. And then the fire, each time the fire, not consuming, not punishing, receiving, the way a door receives something that finally comes home. When it was over, the cemetery was quiet in a way it hadn't been when Clement arrived. Not tense quiet, not holding its breath quiet. Just quiet, the ordinary silence of a place where nothing living was moving. The fire was gone, Nella was gone. Clement sat down on a grave marker and breathed for a while. He slept, which surprised him. He'd planned to leave, but his body made the decision for him, and he woke up 6 hours later with his back against the beech tree and the early sun crossing the hollow at a low angle, making the dew on the grass into 10,000 small lights. The hollow smelled different, cleaner, less like something damp and sealed and more like just creek water and old leaves. Normal. He was sitting there, head clearing, when he heard her voice. "You held your ground," she said. He turned. She was sitting on a rock by the creek, just as she'd been the day before. Basket in her lap, this time it was empty. "I almost didn't," Clement said. "That one had me." "Almost is the whole game," she said. "You think I wasn't almost many times?" He asked her how long she'd been in the hollow. She looked at the creek for a moment. "Long enough that I don't count it," she said. "I was here when those men died. I was one of the wives, or I was near to it. And when the company moved on and left the graves and left the grief with no one to mind it, I stayed." "That's the whole story," Clement said. "Are they at rest now, those men?" "5 of them, the worst of the pressure," she said. "The others I've been working on for years, a little at a time. Last night cleared the ones that were doing the damage. The people in those houses at the hollow mouth, they'll stop fading now. The water's clean." "Is it done?" Clement asked. "For good?" She made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh and wasn't quite sad. "Nothing like this is done for good," she said. "The stones shift, the water moves, the stars cross back over. What I cleared last night will stay cleared as long as those families do what I left for them to do. Tend the graves. Name the men in them. Say their names out loud once a year. That's all, that's enough. Memory is the only real protection. When people forget what's in the ground remembers for them. And it's not gentle about it." Clement asked what she'd left for the families. "A list of names," she said. "I put it in the old church foundation, South End. They'll find it." She stood and smoothed her dress. "Go tell Garland Hicks to look in the foundation. He'll know what to do." He turned to write it down in the small notebook he always carried. When he looked back up, she was gone. No sound. Not even the grass moving where she'd stood. Garland Hicks went out to the old church foundation that same afternoon. A stone rectangle half buried in goldenrod at the south edge of the settlement. Nothing left of the structure above ground. The floor long since rotted away. He didn't find a piece of paper with a list of names on it, which is what Clement had expected when he described it. He found a flat piece of shale, roughly a foot by 8 inches, with 26 names scratched into it. Mining names, Welsh names, Italian names, names from the American South that had come north for coal work. 26 of them. The same number who had died in the 1908 accident. The shale was not newly made. The edges were worn and the scratching was weathered, the way stone weathers over many decades. It had been there a long time. Garland looked at it for a long moment, then said to Clement, "How old would you say that stone was?" "The weathering on it," Clement said. "I'm not a geologist. But it wasn't put there last night. That stone had been there for years. Decades, maybe." Garland was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "So she made it whenever she made it, and just moved it somewhere you'd be sent to tell me to look." Clement said that seemed to be about the size of it. Garland picked up the stone carefully with both hands. "I'll get the families together," he said. "We'll do something proper. Name reading, grave tending, whatever it takes. He looked at Clement. Will that be enough? Clement said, she said so. I believe her. He did believe her. He'd learned by then to distinguish between the things people say to comfort themselves and the things that are just true, and Nella's words had that quality, the particular weight of a statement that doesn't need you to believe it. Clement Bray finished the story, took a long drink from his tin cup, and rocked in silence for a minute. The storm that had been threatening all night was finally arriving. Thunder far off, the wind chimes going harder, the smell of rain cutting through the October air. Nora had her recorder going. She leaned forward. The no more deaths part, she said. Did it work? Did the families in the hollow recover after you told Garland? Nobody else faded like that, Clement said. Last time I checked in with Garland, that was maybe 15 years ago. He's gone now. He said they'd been doing a grave tending day every year, first Sunday in October. Read the names on the shale stone. Said the hollow felt different. Said even the deer came back. I asked about Nella, whether he'd seen her again since. Clement looked out at the dark tree line for a moment. Twice, he said. Both times she came to me. Once she was at my kitchen table when I came downstairs, just sitting there, told me where to go and what to look for. Was gone before my coffee was done. Second time she was in the back of a photograph someone showed me, just at the edge, looking the wrong direction, in a photo that was taken in 1972. I was in the same photograph. I was 22. He let that sit for a moment. She looked the same in 1972 as she did in Pinebox Hollow in 1991, he said. Same as what I saw looking at old pictures of the settlement from 1910. Same as she looked last Tuesday when I passed through that hollow on the way back from a thing I had to see to over near Burnsville. Nora and I looked at each other. You were just in Pinebox Hollow last Tuesday? Nora said. That's right, Clement said. Was she at the creek again? Nora asked. With the basket? Always, he said, still working. Said there's a new pocket of pressure building in the north section, where the old foreman's buried. Said the stars are moving back into a position that'll wake it up in a few years if someone doesn't get ahead of it. A crack of thunder closed this time. The wind chimes went wild. Clement stood up, slow, careful about his knees, and said he'd be going inside for a bit, get us something warm, back in a minute. He went through the front door. 5 minutes later, I knocked to check on him. Nobody answered. I opened the door. The house was empty. A cup of tea was on the kitchen table, hot, still steaming. An oil lamp was burning on the shelf. And on the kitchen counter, face down, was a photograph. Old black and white, the paper gone slightly brown at the edges. I turned it over. It showed a group of people standing outside what looked like a church, or what had been a church. Dated on the back in pencil. Piney Fork, 1951. In the front row, a tall, thin man with very dark, clear eyes. Young, 20-some years old. Clement Bray, unmistakably even that young. At the far right edge of the photograph, half out of frame, a woman in a dark dress was looking not at the camera but at the young man in the front row. Her face was patient, deliberate. The face of someone who had been watching over something for a very long time. Below the photograph, in the same penciled hand, someone had written, "She's been here since before the accident. She'll be here after all of us." And it was signed, G. Hicks. Oin, we went back out to the porch. The rocking chair was still moving slightly, like it had just been vacated. The wind chimes were loud. The rain was starting. Nora stopped her recorder and looked at me. How long do you think we were on this porch? She said. I checked my phone. It was 3:47 in the morning. We'd pulled up at what we thought was 7 or 8 in the evening. Nearly 8 hours. But the story hadn't felt like 8 hours. It hadn't felt like more than one. We got in the car I drove. Nora was quiet all the way back to the county road. Then she said, without looking away from the window, my grandmother said to go sit with Clement Bray. She didn't say he'd still be there. I didn't have anything to say to that. So I didn't say anything. The road was straight and the rain was steady, and I kept my eyes forward and drove. The grave tending at Pinebox Hollow still happens. First Sunday in October. People come from 3 counties. They read the names from the shale stone. The deer come back every year. No one who tends those graves has faded since. No one plans to stop. In the end, the woman at Pinebox Hollow